to share with your community. Tonight, we're talking all about authentic leadership. We're talking leadership from a different perspective than I think is usually taught. So tonight, I want to ask everyone to have an open mind and also to use the chat. I will ask some questions. I do my best to not run a dictatorship. So it's more of an interactive experience. So there will be some questions. And I want to first establish a safe space as well. And what does that safe space mean? It means that there are no stupid questions. There are no stupid comments. We welcome dialogue. It's how we grow and it's how we learn. And so today we're talking about authentic leadership. How to become an inspirational leader without compromising your values. Just a little bit about who I am. I am a certified public speaker, a published author, and a self-development mentor and professional development mentor, working with a number of leading businesses here in the Bahamas, namely Deltec Bank, BAF Financial, the Central Bank of the Bahamas, Bahama, and Advisaria, and listed them all. We'll be here all night, and that will be my presentation time. I've empowered quite a number of women throughout the world to feel confident in their authentic selves so that they can embrace an invigorating life with purpose and ease. It was a near-death experience and coming to terms with some devastating hardships in my life that I realized the power of inner revolution, being introspective, finding our power and the beauty of living life authentically on our terms. Once we understand what those terms are and how we go about achieving life living that way. I'm dedicated to helping others now boldly claim their purpose and live a fulfilling life. It's a little bit about who I am. And so as we begin to move forward in the presentation, I'd like to ask you if you would just use the chat for me, please, and drop in chat what characteristics of leadership, or what are the characteristics you believe should be in a leader. When someone is a leader, what are you expecting to see from that leader? Type it in chat for me, please. And I'm just going to pause a moment. Confidence, honesty, inspiration, yes, integrity, role model, empathy, absolutely, motivator, cute. Evidence of what to do, absolutely, walk the talk. I love that, Mike, that is beautiful. To be a leader requires that we master so many different characteristic traits. And I like how Idris says self-awareness, because self-leadership is the most important form of leadership. But let's just be real, we are more likely to want to lead others versus leading ourselves, because it is definitely difficult. So thank you so much, Blanche. Yes. Confidence, Devonia. Yes. Accountability. So as we talk about authentic leadership today, I'm going to advance my slide. I want to share with you some differences between high achievers, average achievers, and low achievers as it relates to connecting with other people. Type in chat for me, please. Leadership is influence. Nothing more, nothing less. So I just want you to type in chat for me that leadership is influence. So there is a difference, because an authentic leader understands that he or she has to be a high achiever when it comes to connecting with other people. A high achiever in leaders, and I thank you so much for those who are typing in chat that leadership is influence. A high achiever as a leader is someone who cares about people just as much as they care about profits. This is where we talk about managing a whole employee. This is where that empathy comes in. This is where those relationships come in. And so when you are great at connecting with other people, you care just as much about them as you do about your business growing. If you are an average connector, it means that your sole focus as a leader is on production. You are predominantly focused on the amount of work that the employee is supposed to be doing on your team. Nothing more is important to you but getting that work done. And then if you're not really great at connecting with other people, you're preoccupied with your own security. And so it means that your boundaries are really high There are a lot of high walls around you that are almost impenetrable, not able to be penetrated. And so as a result of that, relationships don't build. And if any of this resonate with you, also let me know in the chat, okay? So the second component of a high achiever in leadership is someone that view the people that they lead optimistically. It means that you trust the people that you've been called to serve. Now, I know you're saying, oh, Duquesa, some of those people have done some things that have burnt me or that have caused me to not be able to trust them. That's understandable. However, as leaders, we're somewhat like parents. Like our kids, they have to hear the message over and over and over and over again. There's no instance that you tell a child not to do something, or as they're growing and learning, we have to reinforce the messages. And so as a leader, when you're great at connecting with other people, you can view them optimistically. If you are just average at connecting with other people, this is where you focus on your own status. This is where the I am the manager syndrome come in. It's where people are serving you. It's where they are required to treat you a certain way because you have the status and the title of leadership. But the title of leadership doesn't mean anything if you're not really performing as a leader. You don't even need a title to be a leader. I don't know if in your environment, you can let me know in the chat, if in your environment, there are people without titles who are clear leaders. There are people in your environment who get employees to follow them. There are people in your environment that get leaders to respond to them. Thank you, Andrea, not caring for titles. And Mickey, yes, you don't need a title to lead. I mean, come on, let's go back to school for a minute, right? When you go back to primary school, I know that there were kids in primary school who were just naturally great at leadership, and you knew that that person would grow up to be a great leader. And so you don't need a title to be a leader. And when you're focused on your own status, you're paying more attention to you than the people that you serve. When you're not great at connecting with other people, you show a basic distrust toward the people who you are called to serve. Now, if somebody don't trust you, yes or no in chat for me, please. If somebody does not trust you, are you going to be able to feel it, sense it, and see it? If someone doesn't trust you, will that message of I don't trust you be relayed to you? Absolutely. So if you are leading someone and you don't trust them and they know you don't trust them, can you really build a great relationship with them? Yes or no in chat? Absolutely not. Remember my first statement that I asked you to write in the chat a few minutes ago, that leadership is influence. Can we influence people that we don't have relationships with? Like, can we influence them to buy into us? I mean, they can be influenced by our example to some extent, but I don't like the word under, but you seek advice from those whom you serve, because as a leader, you are the ultimate servant. And so it means that you're listening to your team members. They're in it. They're working all day, every day. They're working in the project. They're working in your environment. They're looking at the mechanics of what they're doing. They can see what's going well. They can see what needs to be tweaked. They can identify your low-hanging fruit immediately where you could make the greatest impact. And so when you are a great influencer, when you are a great relationship builder, you're open to listening to the advice of the people that you serve. When you're average at leadership, you're reluctant to get advice from those people. I mean, you get it because it's probably a good thing to do when you're a leader, but you don't do anything with it. How many of you have sat in meetings where your leaders have asked for your advice, or where you've shared your advice with your leader and they did nothing with it? How did that make you feel? It did not make you feel involved or a sense of belonging. It did not make you feel valued. I see Jerez is saying small and unimportant. Only someone completely self-centered wouldn't see such an obvious tell. That's right, Stephen. It would make you annoyed. And so when you are average at connecting with other people, you're really reluctant to get advice from them because you're superior to them. And again, this comes back to that place of status. When you are not good at connecting at all, you don't seek advice. This is where you are that lone ranger. And absolutely, so feel like you wasted your time. And so when you are a lone ranger, but you are the leader of a team, you're setting yourself up for massive failure. If you go at it without including your team, if you go at it without the buy-in of your team, if you go at it without building the culture of your environment, your success is going to flaw. That's just factual. A great leader who is good at connecting actively listens. Now, I want to talk about actively listening for a few minutes because, there are times when we actively listen and there are times when we are passively listening. When people are actively listening to you, what are some of the things that they're doing? When you can see that someone's paying attention to you, type in chat and let me know. What makes you realize that someone is actively listening to you? What are some of they're engaged, eye contact, what else? That eye contact, absolutely. Let me just give you a couple. They respond. Yes, they do respond. Yes, they nod their head. Active listening means that they're also asking questions for clarity. That's right, Justin. They question you. They're asking questions for clarity. They're making sure that what they heard from you is exactly what you said. Because has it happened to you where you went and executed something that you thought your leader told you to do, and when you went back to them and said, hey, I'm completed doing this task, and they ask you, but why did you do that? And you said, well, that's what you told me to do. And they're like, no, that's not what I said. So when we are actively listening to people, we are nodding to show our engagement. We are having great eye contact. We're asking questions for clarity. We're repeating the information back to the person so that they know that what they said, we received correctly, and we're allowing them to give us more clarity if what we heard isn't what they said. Yes, validating and empathizing. When you are an average achiever, it means that the only important information is coming from the people above you. It means that that's, again, bringing us back to status, right? It means that the only important people are the people who have a higher title than you. And so they are the only people that you're taking advice from. And I just want to let you know, because I do my best to be transparent in my trainings and in my conversations, that it's the people that sit at the ultimate top of the organization that can be supported more as it relates to training, coaching, and developing leaders and becoming better leaders as well. And so we have to make sure that we're open to listening to everyone and not just listening to the people who are above us. And then finally, when you're not great at connecting with other people, you avoid communication and rely on policy manuals only. Now, I'm going to stop a second and ask you to answer another question in chat for me. Have you ever heard what the policy says? And I mean, inflexible, but the policy says. Have you heard that in your execution? Yes, of course. Someone is saying, Sophia is saying too many times. Justin is saying yes. Mickey is laughing and saying yes. And sometimes our policies need to be revisited. Sometimes they're in place for good reason. They're in place to avoid risk and problems for the organization. But as we progress and as things change, some of those policies need to also be tweaked and changed so that we can become more efficient and grow our organizations as well. And so when we rely strictly on the policy, yes, I don't want to mispronounce your name, Ninad. Listen, yes, we've been doing it this way for forever. Yes, you hit the nail right on the head. And then if we avoid communicating with other people as a leader, that again is a boundary that's been set up for our employees not to be able to come to us to really learn about what they're supposed to be doing in the execution of their job. And we're taking for granted that the people that we need understand how to meet our expectations without exactly sharing what those expectations are, thereby setting them up for failure. And so to become a great influential leader, it means that we have to move from low to average to high achievers. And many of us fall in different parts of what this is I have on the screen. This is a chart, right? Some of us may sit in some areas in low, some of us may sit in some areas in average, some of us may sit in some areas in high achievers. The good thing about leadership is that we can constantly grow. It's really difficult to get to the pinnacle of success in leadership, and that's simply because things are always changing, evolving. And so as leaders, we can identify where we are. And that's what I want to ask you to do right now. Don't type it in chat. Don't share it with anyone. Just take a moment to consider where exactly you fall on this spectrum. Because if leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less, and we need to connect with other people in order to influence them, it means that we have to see where we are, be open to admitting where we are, and then putting into action the things that we need to do to move from one category to another category. So if we're in low achievers in one area, we want to focus to getting to average achiever. And then from average achiever, we want to focus to getting to high achiever, because we really can't move from average straight to high achievers because it takes practice in order to do this. I want you to also type in chat for me. Everything rises and falls on leadership. That is the John Maxwell principle, that every single thing rises and falls on leadership. Now, do you guys remember, well, for those of you that live in the Bahamas, I don't know if you remember when the Olympic team, the men's team, finally won that gold medal. Like, they were going to the Olympics and they were getting bronze, they were getting silver, but for some reason, they could not get gold. And I think the entire Bahamas celebrated that year when we finally achieved gold in the Olympics. What do you think contributed to that? Yes, people say strategy, repositioning of the team members. People say the execution of a well laid out plan, practice. But can I also tell you that they got a new leader? The truth is, you cannot outperform your ability. So you will only be as effective as your ability. So as a leader, if your ability is at let's say out of 5, you can only be effective below 5 because you can't outperform your ability. That makes sense? You cannot outperform your ability. And that's why it's super important for us to continue to identify where we are, and as leaders, continue to build our skills. Every single thing rises and falls on leadership. Now, I want to share a slide with you. And as I share this slide with you, I'm going to direct you to look at the bottom of the screen for the definition. It's actually a John Maxwell definition of leadership. Some of it is off the screen, so I'm going to read it. Being a great leader is all about having a genuine willingness and a true commitment to lead others to achieve a common vision and goals through positive influence. No leader can achieve anything great or long-lasting alone. There are 5 core values in that definition. Type in chat for me, please, what you believe they are. There are 5 things that jump off the page when you read this definition. Being a great leader is all about having a genuine willingness and a true commitment to lead others to achieve a common vision and goals through positive influence. No leader can achieve anything great alone. Common vision is one, absolutely. True commitment, not just commitment. True commitment is another one. Willingness, commitment, vision, influence together. Mike. Positive influence, yes. And so to be a great leader means that you have a genuine willingness to serve other people. Being a leader is about having a servant's heart. It's about making sure that the people on your team see you as an example to follow. People do what they see. Type in chat for me. People do what they see. And so as a leader, the best thing that you can do is give your team the gift of a great example. So being a great leader is about having that genuine willingness. It isn't fake. Because come on, let's just be real, man. We could spot fake people a mile away. And you know when someone being fake with you. Secondly, you have to have a true commitment. It means that as a leader, you're committed despite your emotions. It means that as a leader, you're committed despite the culture in your organization. As a leader, it means that you're committed despite the workload. As a leader, it means that you are true to your commitment to lead others, but not just to lead them. We want to lead them towards achieving a common vision and common goals. And many times as leaders, we focus on leading our people to buy into us versus the vision, mission, and values of the organization that we serve. But our goal is to bring people together to achieve that common vision and the goals that have been established through positive influence. That's right, Mickey. True leadership creates leaders. Stephen is correct. Always focus on the outcome to be achieved by the unified team and constantly in a team building mode. You're constantly cultivating a culture that allows teams to work well together. And you do this through positive influence. Now, let me just see. How many of you today are parents? How many of you, type in chat if you're a parent. How many of you are parents? 2 kids, Mike. Congratulations. Yeah. Yes, a dog. Okay, a dog works too. Okay, 5 kids. Great. So now let's have a serious conversation here about kids now. When you're teaching your child a lesson and you tell it to them once, and you tell it to them twice, and you tell it to them 3 times, and then they switch to, they continue doing it, and now you switch to being a little bit more critical. Do they respond to that? They continue doing the same thing. Let me tell you, I'm glad Andrea say switch, right? I can tell you a little story. Y'all don't talk my business, okay? Because I see Andrea and talk, but she's putting this on YouTube. I used to get beaten for dinner, breakfast, lunch, and sometimes snack. Dead serious. Y'all know beating don't work, right? I know this is an off subject, right? But beating just don't work. Like I used to be like, it only can be beaten. So when I know I didn't do something as a little girl, when I knew that I was going to do something that was going to cause me to get beaten, child, I used to go put on 2 and 3 pants. Because I say it only can be beaten and beaten don't last. Many of us, listen, beaten don't change a single thing. And so when we are correcting our children, if we correct our children with love and explanations and help them to understand the why behind the what, when they're able to process that information, we get a better response because they understand. Don't just say, don't put your hand in the socket. You want to explain that if you do that, here are the consequences, or ask the question. If they're old enough, ask the question. If you put your quarter in that socket, what do you think is going to happen? So that they can process. And a great leader understands that it's through positive influence. If you talk bad to me, if you talk down to me, if you make me feel like I am nothing, am I really going to jump on board? And if I do, am I going to give you my best? What you think, guys? Answer me in chat. Am I really going to give my best if I'm in a negative environment where I'm always spoken down to, where I'm berated, where I make mistakes, but I'm not coached and I'm not mentored? There's no positive influence. Everything that I do is wrong. Andrea says she's showing up for lunch and the free AC. And so positive influence is what leaders should implement as a part of their coaching and mentoring. And then finally, here it is again. No leader can do anything great alone. So I want to share these 6 quick tips with you to help build authenticity as a leader and to also help with connection. Type in chat for me, please, what you believe the 2 most important components of relationships are. What do you think? Any type of relationship. It's your love relationship, your wife, it's your sister friend, your brother friend. This is trust. Absolutely, that's one in caps. Trust is one. What else? Communication. Absolutely. With trust broken, relationships are harder to rebuild. And with ineffective communication, that's just a disaster. So every relationship requires trust and communication to be intact. So how do we begin as leaders to cultivate trust and communication? The first thing we could do is to get to know the people that we serve. We want to get to know them. Like, they're not robots. I want to tell you about a time when I worked at the Atlantis Resort and Casino here in the Bahamas as a director of quality assurance. This was a role that handled complaints for the entire resort. And so whether that was the pool and beach, whether that was restaurants, whether that was a slip and fall inside the building, whether that was an issue with the room, every single complaint for the entire resort channeled into this department. So imagine this, you're going to work every day to deal with negativity, because these are unhappy customers who are now saying, I want you to do something. I had a leader who understood that took a toll, where you're only hearing about the negative from the guest experience. And what this leader did motivated me. And I reported at that time directly to George McIntonis, who was the CEO of the Atlantis Resort at that time. Listen to what I said, the CEO. Everything stopped at him. The buck stopped at him. And every single day for the year that I worked in quality assurance, Mr. McIntonis, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock, would enter my office. Now, I don't know what time between 8 and 9, but sometime between 8 and 9 o'clock, he would enter my office and have a conversation with me. Sometimes that conversation was, hi, Duquesa, how are you doing today? How was your weekend? If it was a Monday morning. Oh, glad that you got some time with your family. How are your kids? Other times it would have been, hey, Duquesa, yesterday when we spoke, you told me that your mom was ill. Is she feeling any better? Is she out of the hospital as yet? Or it could be, Duquesa, your team has put in an extraordinary amount of effort today. Why don't I treat you guys to lunch? Duquesa, what are your kids' plans for the future? What are the things that they want to accomplish? What are some of their hobbies? And he would spend 15 minutes with me every single business day that I was at work. And he did this, as far as I'm aware, to every other direct report that he had. He took time to get to know me. How do you think that made me feel? Type in chat for me. How do you think that made me feel? Valued, absolutely. Appreciated, seen. I felt a sense of belonging. I felt like I was important. You guys are hitting it right on the head. And so he got to know me as a person, which takes us right back to the high achiever, that when you are a great connector, you care about people just as much as you care about profits. And so he got to know me. By getting to know me, he was able to identify my growth opportunities and coach me correctly. By getting to know me, he was able to determine what future I saw for myself and help me plot that pathway to get there. And so we, as leaders, that's a part of our responsibility. We have to get to know the people that we serve. If we don't know them, if we're not building relationships with them, if we're not understanding them, if we're not communicating well with them, if we're not cultivating trust, then are we really building the relationship? The second thing that we have to do to be authentic in leadership is to live our message. The greatest gift that we could give our team members is the gift of a great example. I want to take us back again to when we were children. Were you ever told, don't do what I do, do what I say? Anyone ever told you that? Don't do what I do, do what I say. I'm seeing some responses in chat. Yes, Jerez, and what did you do? Elizabeth, what did you do? You have to tell us what the thing is, right? But what did you do? You did, chances are you did exactly what you saw. There, Jerez said it. I did what I saw, because people do what they see. That's just the reality of it. We are visual learners. And so as leaders, we have to live the message. If we want our employees to come to work on time, guess what we have to do? We have to come to work on time and set the example. Of course, there are some privileges associated with being a leader. And it means from time to time, you may come in late, but it shouldn't be the norm, because now you're setting the example of what to follow as a leader. If you want your team members to put in 100%, we have to put in 100%. If we want our team members to stick to the lunch hours, we can't go on executive lunches every single day. We cannot abuse the privilege that comes with leadership because they're watching. So we have to live our message. The third thing we have to do is to go where they are. And I want to talk about this for a few minutes, because have you ever said, don't answer this in the chat, to someone, they have to come up to my level? I want you to answer this in the chat. This could be a friend, this could be a boyfriend, this could be a girlfriend, this could be, have you ever said, I tell you, Justin, and I tell you the answer in chat. If you ever said to someone, you have to come up to my level, type in chat for me how much experience you have in your role. Type in chat. How many years of experience do you have? Type in chat. 3, 12, 5, 20. Oh, Mikey, awesome. Yeah. Oh, Brian. Oh, wow. 30, 20. You're an old girl. Mikey, so you feel old. Listen, age is just a number. Ronnie might be dead, but that principle still there. You're only as old as you feel. Mike, what you mean 158? So the irony is, what if your level is not what you assume? Boy, that's the irony for true. Now let's have a conversation, guys. Let's just be real, right? Let's take it to relationships just to be safe, right? If you're dating someone and this person isn't on your level, this person isn't as educated as you are, they don't have that master's degree or that bachelor's degree, they don't have any certification, they don't have any formal training, but they did graduate from high school, right? Your level of processing as a project person, y'all know a project person, y'all process differently, right? Straight ahead, you could see it coming, okay? And you meet this person who don't have any project experiences at all, y'all hanging out, and you trying to explain something to them, and they just can't get it. Can that person really come up to your level right then in that conversation? Absolutely not. When you lead employees, if you have 5 years experience and somebody is just coming into the field, they may have 1 year. How could that person with 1 year of experience come up to your level of 3 years or 10 years or 20 years? People cannot come to our level if they don't start at the same level we're at. And so great leaders understand that they have to go to where their people are. You have to go to them. You have to go to them. You have to speak their language. You have to go to where they are. And then when you go to where they are, you can help to move them forward. You can help to gradually, it's a gradual process of mentorship, of coaching, of correcting, of holding accountable so that they can move forward and eventually come to a higher place, but they will never get to your level if your level has already far exceeded where their start point is. And so we have to go to our people. We have to understand what they know. We can't assume. Grammy used to say, when you assume, you make an idiot out of you and me, and Grammy didn't use idiot. So we can't assume that people know and understand. So your wife tried that and you still ain't keeping up with her, man. Listen, let me encourage you. Try keep up, okay? She might have to break it down a little bit more for you. Tell her take the steps down a little bit more. We have to go to where our people are. We have to know what level they are at. Because someone has a bachelor's degree, and I don't want to step on any points tonight. I just want to be open, honest, and transparent. Because someone has a bachelor's degree doesn't mean they have a bachelor's degree education. So we have to go to them to determine what they know. And whatever the gaps are, we have to be willing to help fill the gaps for those people. Let's move on because my time tonight is coming to close to a close. We have to focus on our people and not on ourselves. Let me tell you something. When you get people to buy in, when you get them to buy into you, you will automatically become successful. And I use personal experiences to kind of drive home the message. When I left director of the Cove, director of quality assurance at Atlantis, I moved over to the Cove Atlantis, being responsible for as director of leisure services and pool and beach recreation at the Cove and Reef Atlantis. And I remember entering a hostile work environment. I remember entering this hostile work environment because their current manager had applied for the job that I was given. And so because their current manager, their manager at that time, wasn't elevated to the position of director, and I came from across the same organization, but a different department, I came into some hostility because they had allegiance to their manager. They had loyalty to their manager. And as a leader, I could have let my ego take over. I could have said, oh, you know, I'm now the director. You have to follow what I say. But in my mind, I was like, okay, how are you going to handle this situation? I'm going to build relationships. And so I focused on my team members. I had weekly meetings with every member of my team. I call them in, talk to them about what they do, what they needed, what support they needed, what supplies they needed, what their future goals were. I focused on them. We did a lot of team building activities to bring the team together. I did not force them to accept me as their leader because we can't force people to accept us. But I focused on them and building the relationship so that they could see me as a person. They did resist in the beginning. However, that did not deter me from being consistent in my action. Some people warmed up faster than others once they realized that, you know what, she's really not the enemy. And by the time I left the Atlantis Resort and Casino, I was still in that position at the Cove and Reef. By the time I left at my going away party, they were all in tears, crying about this being the best leader they ever had whole John Canoe rush out for me because they knew I loved John Canoe. And so we can get our team members to buy into us, but we have to drop our ego and build those relationships. Focus on them and help them become better. When they become better, they build better relationships. When their mindsets have shifted, then their actions also shift. Whatever we believe is what we take action on. I want you to write that down because beliefs drive actions. Whatever we believe is where we take action from. So what is your team believing about you? What are they believing about you? And you know what, Lee, that's okay. It's okay to be afraid. That's okay. And we can face our fears by doing what we're afraid of. And if we're not certain of what to do, there are people like me who coach to help you, okay? And so we have to focus on our team. The fifth thing we need to do is to believe in our people. This brings me back to the point earlier when I was talking about when we berate people or when we're so negative with people, if that makes them perform more or do more. When we show people that we believe in them, let me tell you something, guys. Let me tell you something. We're humans. We're all human beings. And there are people on your teams who have challenging situations. There are people on your teams who are living in homes without electricity. There are people on your teams who are living from paycheck to paycheck. There are people on your teams who don't have money to buy lunch through the week. There are people on your teams who are driving home on gas and praying they get home because they know it's only like a whiff of gas in their tank. There are people on your teams who are taking care of ailing parents. There are people on your team who are having challenges with their children. There are people on your teams who are recovering from the death of a loved one. There are people on your teams who are not social and are struggling to adjust to the environment. So the makeup of your team is composed by people who are already struggling. And sometimes all they need is somebody to inspire and believe them. Sometimes the people that we lead, when you think about their backgrounds and where they come from, because you really don't know. They may have never had anyone in their life to say something positive to them. And when you say to someone, I see the potential in you. When you say to someone, you're great at this. When you say to someone, I could see you elevating and escalating anywhere that you want to be because you have these skills, this attitude. You are now showing them that you believe in them. And for some people, that's all they need. So that person on your team who is chronically not performing, like chronic, they just ain't doing it. When they do something that's outside of the norm of their normal little bit what they could do in response to the little salary that they get it, you want to big that up. To them, you want to say, you know what, Duquesa, I see that you stayed an extra hour this week. Man, listen, that made such a difference to our team. That one positive statement is going to start to help to change their actions and their relationships. People want to be recognized. They want to be acknowledged. They want to be valued. And if you see them, speak to what you see positively. Even when you're coaching them, when you're inspiring them, you want to coach from a place of positivity. You want to tell them all the things that they're good at. And you want to say, listen, there are some things that we could work on that could help elevate you to. If you want to be a plumber, if you want to be a nail tech, because some of the people on our teams they really truly don't want the profession that they're in. And that's why it's important for you to know where they want to go, because now you know how to motivate them. So you have to learn how to believe in the people that you serve. The final point is that we have to also offer them direction and hope. And this is where we use our personal stories to do that. Because as a leader, people want to know that you are relatable. People want to know that you've had experiences. Now, let me stop for a second and tell you, I'm not telling you to go to work and tell the people all about your marriage and all about the problems you're having with your wife or your husband. I'm not telling you to cross boundaries that shouldn't be crossed. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying, though, is that you could share a story like when I was studying for my master's degree program, there were times when I thought I wouldn't finish it. There was this one particular time when I had a difficult assignment. I wanted to get a good grade on this assignment, but I actually failed it and I had to redo it. Now, the power of me having to redo it, I was able to identify the areas that I didn't perform so well in. And I was also able to identify that I didn't apply myself appropriately. But once I did apply myself the second time, I was able to pass with flying colors. It makes you relatable. It makes you human. And so you offer hope and direction through those stories. So those of you who are in the room and you've been here for 20 and 30 years, you have so much value in those stories to share. There's so much about your journey that you can share and offer hope and direction. Some people today still don't know what they want to do. And so as a part of the journey, it's about having that conversation about it's okay to not know. Sometimes we don't know when we're 20. Sometimes we're still trying to figure out life at 30. But you know what? At some point, you're going to get there. And so recognizing that as a leader and as an authentic leader, a part of your responsibility is to offer direction and hope. Mike, thank you so much for being here. And so as we wrap up our conversation today, I want to share with you a little bit more about how to inspire other people. What people know, what people see, what people feel equals inspiration. That is your formula for inspiring your team. What do people know? What do people see? What do people feel? Because once they know something positive, that you understand them and are focused on them, you have high expectations and you will coach them. And once they see your conviction and your example, once they feel your confidence in yourself and your gratitude for them, they are inspired. And so finally tonight, here are some steps that I want to encourage you to focus on. Embracing authenticity, mastering communication, becoming influential, which is building those relationships, and becoming relatable, personable, likable. Knowing what aids communication, overcoming barriers in communication, like assumptions, like egos, Like control and micromanaging, those are barriers. Sparking inspiration and taking action. Those are all necessary for us to become effective leaders. And so, guys, leadership is difficult. It's not an easy road to becoming a great, authentic leadership. We throw around the word intention a lot. It does, however, require us to have intentional action. And what I want to encourage you to do is to create a leadership blueprint for yourself. What does that look like? As a leader, who do you want to become? When people see you, interact with you, what do you want them to see, sense, and feel? As a leader, what's the legacy that you want to live? As a leader, what are the results that you want to bring? And what will it take for you to do that? So you create a blueprint of the things that you need to do to become an exemplary leader. And once you create that blueprint, you can now execute that blueprint to level up and evolve in your leadership. That's me.
Thank you so much, Duquesa, for an awesome presentation. It was really informative, inspiring, engaging, and all the other great adjectives to describe it. Before we take questions, can we just snap our picture very quickly, and then we'll open up the floor for questions that you may have? So take picture means Justin is camera ready, and the rest of you are not camera ready because the cameras are still off.
The camera's on, I'm ready.
Ready.
Beautiful people. Look at you guys. Beautiful smile.
So
Ryan came on smiling.
We're going to take our quick snapshot, and then we're going to open the floor for questions. So I'm guessing that everyone who wants to be on camera is on camera, and who doesn't want to be on camera, the camera is still off. So on a count of 3, 1. Okay, I think I froze. Yep.
Yes, you froze for a second.
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for everyone to become unfrozen.
And it was you.
And it was me. So if you would like to do a gesture, that'll be fun sometimes. We do a little gesture to say how we felt about the presentation, and what do you want to go on the photo.
Yep.
Thumbs up.
The thumbs up is always good.
I only could do 1 thumbs up because I have to take the picture.
Take the photo.
Ready, Mr. Burrows? Okay, I took 1, and I'm going to just hope and pray that it looks great. So, does anyone have any questions for our presenter, Duquesa tonight? Stephen Burrows always has a question.
Is he still here? I think he left. Thank you, Jerez. I appreciate it. Oh, okay, he's still there.
So let me ask my question, because I was trying to just practice silent listening and like hold the space and say, well, I'm going to reserve my questions and let other persons who want to speak, because I'm always speaking.
Can I ask a question quick?
Sure, you can.
Okay, right now, I am a vice chairman of an organization, and we're going into elections in October, and I've chosen not to put myself up again for another 3 years. But I felt like I've led the organization in a way that I have people around me that can lead, but how do I convince them that they are ready to lead? I asked because the leader before, he did the same thing for me, and he was a good leader, and it was somebody that we could have followed, and I felt like, I feel like, ain't nobody to say they're a bad leader, but I feel like I'm a good enough leader that we said it, that I have a host of people who could take the organization over, but what do I do to encourage them to see that they have that value to take on the organization? Because I really don't want to lead it any longer.
Mikey, that's a great question. And I want to commend you for wanting to pass the mantle of leadership on to someone else. You shouldn't lead for forever. And so that's great that you want to pass it on. What's also great is that you've already shared that there are a few people who can do it. I would tell you to just have those backdoor conversations. And what do I mean by backdoor conversations and not being so direct? Is to ask more questions about their abilities, ask more questions about what they would do in certain situations, or bring to their attention how they've led in the past and the results that they've brought in the past. Because a lot of times we don't want to step into leadership because we don't see the capacity that we already have. We don't see that we're already performing in leadership. So it might require you to go a little bit through the back door and talk about the times that you guys have led together, talk about the difference that they've made, talk about the times when maybe you didn't show up and they filled in, show their capability, and then also share with them that it's about continuity. It's about making sure that the organization exists outside of one person, and it's a shared responsibility. I'll tell you, you can't convince someone who doesn't want to do it, and I wouldn't advise you, if someone is adamant that they don't want to do it, I wouldn't tell you to push that person into leadership because they're not ready. Only if that person is ready, when you're having those backdoor conversations, they're having some aha moments, they're having some light bulb moments, they're engaging in the conversation, and they seem a bit open to it, to continue that dialogue to get them to offer themselves to run for service.
Thank you very much for your advice. I will take it, definitely.
Okay, so
that makes me wonder. The comment that was just made, the question that was just made, makes me wonder about something that someone said to me, which is, I wonder sometimes if good leaders intimidate others, but don't mean to. And what I mean by that is, persons will say, man, you keep doing it because you do it so well. If I did it, I wouldn't do it as well. So man, you keep doing it. So they're actually intimidated. That wasn't the intention, but you've done what you do so well that people around you are actually intimidated and afraid to lead because they're worried that they just wouldn't be up to par, So I'm wondering how would you deal with that? You want them to do it and you want to encourage them and bring them along, but they're actually intimidated.
That conversation would be about the beauty of unique individuals and unique leadership styles. And while you do it well, it's great that people do it in their way. There is a right way to do leadership. It's not imitating another leader. It's about pulling the good aspects about how their example has influenced you, but also putting your flavor. So you want to make sure that the person understands that it's not a competition to do things exactly the same way that you do it. You want to also help them understand that you'll be there along the journey to coach them and support them if they do need that type of support, and that not to be afraid of making mistakes. As leaders, we grow when we make mistakes. So being okay to embrace mistakes as learning. And as long as we could walk away from that comparison, it doesn't have to be my way. Do it your way, and I'll be here to support you. But again, that's a mindset. People don't want to be wrong, right? Yeah. They don't want to be wrong. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to make mistakes. But to change that mindset shift now, we have to help them see how making mistakes helps with overall growth. I hope that helps, Sophia.
Yes, it does. It does.
Okay, I just wanted to say that we have about 15, 16 minutes left in our meetup. And I wanted to know if it's all right with everyone if I stop the recording so that we could possibly use this time to ask some deeper questions about situations we may have on our jobs that we don't want as part of the recording. So a show of a thumbs up if it's okay if I stop the recording now. We'll thank the speaker and then we'll stop the recording. Is that okay with everyone present? Okay, so Sophia.
Yep, I think everybody's giving you a thumbs up.
Okay, that's great. So, Mr. Burrows, I'm going to pick on Justin. Justin, you were one of our first persons to sign into the meeting. So can you thank our speaker? I'm giving you an honorary BAPMC team member role tonight.
Before you do that, there are some questions in the chat. I don't know if you want to address those first.
No, I want to stop the recording, so let him thank, and then we'll go to the questions.
Oh, okay.
Just thank you so much, Duquesa. That was an amazing presentation, and I really learned a lot. It made me kind of analyze some of the things that I've been doing, and so I just really appreciate the time.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for joining us tonight.